Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day life. Let's start with the video.
I'm 32F. Like many people who have mental anguishes and battles that they undertake in their heads to either feel better enough or worthy of their life, was as blindly invested in my previous toxic relationship as one could be. Most of that was thanks to the many mental illnesses I was unpleasantly privileged by. And this is a tale about my husband's relentless attempts to cheat on me through loopholding my agonies. When I first met my husband, 43M, over 13 years or so years ago, I was very unapologetically selfish, as life has taught me considerable lessons in the most brutal ways. I associated that state of mind with being a horrible human being, and my husband being the exact opposite made me desire him much more. I was in awe of his absolute selflessness and would have done anything, may or may not include selling my soul to the devil, to be that selfless and to be able to consider myself that good of a person. I have since learned that selflessness has nothing to do with being good or bad. Like many other surface level traits, it can too easily be faked, at least long enough for the person to have complete and utter control over someone else's life. Kicking off the relationship on a wrongfully right foot seemed convenient at the time, but little did I know that it would be one of my most regretted life decisions. P.S. I'm notorious for being a horrible decision maker, and this will be quite the obvious pattern throughout this story. I decided that I wanted to become a better version of myself, to be someone I admired and find gratitude in knowing what to do to become that, even if it meant changing one of the most fundamental things about myself and becoming as selfless as the most selfless person I knew at that time, which was my husband. Or should I say ex-husband. I learned to say no when it made me uncomfortable and yes when it meant I didn't have anything to gain from agreeing. I learned how to love and care for people in a non-transactional way. It helped build and prosper some of my most indispensable relationships. I ended up actually becoming that selfless person. Even though things changed and it spiraled its way into coming back and biting the marriage in the ass, and I'm not sure if I can even be considered guilty of that, or if it's just another result of my ex's grip and manipulation abilities over me. In the beginning and during one of the most critical and vital periods of my life, and my journey towards building myself an image that I personally admired, when I was around 21 or 22 years old and during my second year of marriage, X decided to take a step in further solidifying my journey towards becoming selfless. That was what he told me, and I actually believe that his logic was as flawless as it comes. I had this image of him in my head that he could do no wrong and that every word and decision that comes out of his mouth is somehow sacred and can't be wrong. Don't get me wrong, he is one of those people that is right most of the time. He rationalizes and thinks through most things, but I now believe that his thought process didn't have the best intentions, nor did it have my interests at heart. He suggested we sign a prenup for which he would be the one to decide most of the conditions. Said that it would help me become selfless and just start to agree to things even if I don't fully believe in them. To blindly trust him in an attempt to create a perfect relationship between protector and someone that needs protection, which was sadly what I yearned for. He started listing off all these rules, him being entirely in control of both of our finances, lifestyle, and, inevitably, personalities. He would tell me how much to spend and what to spend, and if and when I can exasperate money on entertainment or amusement. It sounds genuinely muddled to me now, but at that time, it was as if there was a massive burden of responsibilities taken off my shoulder, as my fear of constantly making horrible decisions was seemingly taken up by him, since I would have to make none because apparently I was married to someone that would obviously do everything but harm me. The relationship did thrive and peak during that time because I was so helplessly under his control, consensually, but unfortunately with the wrong person. My friends started pointing out that it was far too strange that he was so controlling of my life, and I never hesitated for a split second to tell them all of it and to give them the obvious answer, which was that they didn't understand and that I wouldn't survive without him and I needed him so desperately. That I saw him to be perfect for me and that he would never do me wrong or dirty. They saw right through that, and I'm so grateful that they did because it led me to start actually questioning things on my own. They repeated their concerns time and time again, and I questioned it out of annoyance and ended up realizing the malicious undertone that was there to it. When I started looking up records of the money that was being spent on recurring bills and the money that I was spending compared to what I was making, I realized that I was putting in most of my money into monetizing our life together. I was rarely granted the opportunity to spend my own money, which was never the case with my husband, who spent 60% of everything he made, while 60% of my money went into paying the bills, another 20 went to savings. It was obvious, concerning, and terrified the living daylights out of me. The turning point in the story was when I went to the bank and got a statement of what my husband has been spending my money on, which was supposedly going away to savings, and realized that it was funding stays at hotels or shopping at places like Fenty Beauty, Chanel, Victoria's Secret, and the list goes on. None of it was actually saved. And if he hadn't caught on by now, he was actually having an affair and leisurely entertaining his mistress with the money that he was taking from me as part of the prenup that he came up with, claiming that it was with my best interest at heart. It wasn't, and I'm glad it wasn't because it led to a domino effect that ended up pulling me out of a toxic relationship that I would have never gotten out of if none of this happened. The only couple or trio of things that I got to ask for in the prenup included absolute transparency and fidelity, and both of those were being discarded. It granted me access to causing emotional damage to him and followed it up by a legal lawsuit in which I got to take up everything he had robbed me all of these years. The lawsuit hasn't actually advanced that much just yet, but I have a solid case, and the odds of him even having a comeback from everything that he has done to me are slim to none. It feels like I am breathing fresh air for the first time in my life, and I genuinely wanted to document how I'm feeling right now, and what's going through my mind in a way that will never fade. What better way to do that than anonymously on a relationship subreddit, am I right? Update. I'm glad I kept all the information that could have given away my identity because the last post got so much more attention than I was expecting. There were a lot of comments that rubbed me the wrong way because I don't see how there could be a constructive criticism about what I struggled through for over a decade. Just never thought that there would be people that would stoop low enough to free blow at victims of emotional abuse and severely toxic relationships. Nevertheless, I will take the time of my day to explain some of the most mysterious questions to the minds of those that feel comfortable criticizing me. I didn't do any of this because I wanted to have a relationship. It started with me being selfish and continuing to be that way even if it was surnamed selflessness. I wanted to make this relationship work because I felt loved in it, and it made me feel good rather than benefit anybody but my ex. It was purely selfish, and the only reason I maintained it for so long is that my selfishness isn't written deep within me, and that's something I will never shy away from anyone as long as I'm not harming anyone. I don't see how my inability to be entirely selfless brings forth any damage to anybody's life. Being entirely and blindly selfless has proven otherwise because it caused irreversible damage to my life and my already ruined mental health. I've lost a lot of money and a relationship that I thought would repair me forever. And if there are people that still think I did any of this on purpose or consciously consented to being manipulated and abused, then you guys might just be equally as horrible as the man I am legally tormenting and pursuing. I hope my point of view has been explained well enough through this update and the previous post, but feel free to leave any comments containing further questions that I will go back to answer in the future. And thank you to all the people that supported me with your kind words and great advice and undoubtedly appreciated words of affirmation. Okay, for the next story. First, the setup. I am a single mom of 3 boys, 18, 13, and 12. My oldest graduated last year and is currently living at home for free while he goes to school and work so he can save. Next, the problem. Sometimes for work, I get perks for doing well or just because. The other day, I won tickets to an event that I was on the fence about going, so I was planning on selling to a coworker who said he'd buy them if I decided not to go. I was leaning towards that option because the extra money would be nice, to have a little more to play with in the family fun account. Anyway, before I could sell the tickets, my oldest son saw them and asked me for them so he and his girlfriend could go. I told him a guy from work offered to buy it, but if he wanted to, then he could buy them from me instead. My son told me he didn't have the money in his budget for them, but he really wants to go, and if I could just give them to him. I said no, this is part of being an adult sometimes, who just can't afford things. He pleaded some more and I felt bad, so I said he could buy the tickets by watching his brothers while I went on an overnight with my sister. I don't like leaving the youngest two by themselves overnight. And I'll even throw a $50 gift card so they could get something to eat before. He agreed right away and I gave him the tickets. I thought it would be a win-win-win. My son goes to the event and they have a great time. When the weekend of my overnight comes, I get snacks and leave pizza money with a note to everyone, one with all the info we discussed along with the name of the hotel. Then I leave before the boys get home from school. I'm at the hotel having a good time when I get a call from my 13-year-old telling me they don't have enough money to order the pizza they want because their older brother took his share of the pizza money to go have dinner with his girlfriend. I give the two my credit card number, hang up, call their brother who doesn't answer. After repeated unanswered calls, I got nervous and me and my sister checked out and took a cab to my house because we had both been drinking. We end up watching movies and having pizza with the boys, all while trying to get a hold of my son. At 1 a.m., he and his girlfriend come home, but it's already late, so they go to his room to sleep. Next morning, I am pissed, so I go to talk to him with a bill to pay me back for the tickets, the gift card, the hotel, the pizza money, and the cab. I also added an inconvenience fee. He said that wasn't fair because I got the tickets and the gift card for free, and I didn't have to come home because he did come home to watch the boys, so they wouldn't have been alone. I told him that wasn't the agreement and the bill still stands. Am I the asshole because I did charge him for something I did technically get for free? Edit. I had a talk with my son and he apologized and paid me back. He also wants to make it up to his brothers. He was going through some friends' drama, so that's why he was so flaky and jerky. He's really not a bad kid, but he did make mistakes and he learned from them. We are still a close family and we will remain so. Not the asshole. You guys made an agreement on payment and he failed to do it. You said the gift card was for pizza for them to eat, not so he could take his girlfriend out. And you're right, this is part of being an adult. If he couldn't afford it and he didn't want to watch his brothers, then he shouldn't have taken the tickets. You're already doing more than enough letting him live there for free. Not the asshole. I can't for the life of me figure out why people think that just because we, as parents, have something that we are required to give it to our kids for free just because they want it, regardless of how we acquired it. Asking him to babysit for one damn night was far more than fair. He agreed to it. He backed out on the verbal contract. He took advantage of you, especially considering the fact that you could have made money by selling them that would have benefited the entire family. He was greedy and selfish, and now he has to deal with the consequences of his actions. The willingness to uphold a bargain even when there's no way for it to be enforced really speaks to a person's character and integrity. He has some growing up to do. Not the asshole, but the issue isn't about the tickets, but about him lying and letting you down. You had an agreement that he would care for his brothers, and you left sufficient money to feed them. He stole the money and abandoned his brothers, and you need to consider what the appropriate punishment is for that behavior. Next story. This happened back in December, but I'm still getting shiz for it, so now I'm asking Reddit. My 23M sister, 24F, has been dating this guy, 24, for about 10 months, and she shouldn't be. She's constantly testing him to see if he'll cheat or lie, and no matter how many times he passes her tests and says that he rightfully doesn't like these tests, she'll still say she can't trust him, but also won't break up with him. Our family have told her to stop the tests, and so have some of her friends, but her logic is that if he loves her, then he'll know that she needs to be able to trust him. He went out with some friends and mentioned it so she'd know he wouldn't respond for a while, and my sister, who knew some people who were going to the same bar that night, not that many options, told a girl she's kind of friends with that he was single and interested in hooking up to test him again. Boyfriend apparently gets hit on, realizing it's a test again, leaves a bar, calls her and asks if it's a test, and when my sister tells him that he is, he dumps her and says he's either going to hook up with a woman who flirted with him, if she's still up for it, or find someone else to hook up with, since he can't handle my sister's crazy anymore. My sister is very upset, and he hangs up on her, so she goes to our family in the main room, mom, dad, and me, to tell us what happens and says that he cheated and now the relationship is over. We're all obviously upset for her and then get the actual story out of her, and I laughed in her face because she lied. She caused the breakup, and it was what everyone warned her would happen if she kept testing him. I was called every name under the sun by my sister, and her parents said that even though she was in the wrong, I should have been sensitive to how she was feeling and kept my thoughts private, and because I didn't, I'm an arsehole. Am I? Not the asshole. She had been told multiple times to end this by you, your parents, and her partner. These tests are incredibly stupid. She shouldn't be in a relationship if she can't trust anyone. She also shouldn't lie about what happened. She had to keep pushing, and she finally pushed him away. Twisting it to try and make him look bad because of her insecurities isn't right. I don't think you were wrong at all for laughing. She had been warned multiple times, lied, and then finally told the truth, and it was the very thing she had been told by multiple to stop that ruined her relationship. This is completely on her, and she got what she deserved. Not the asshole. Your sister relayed an unintentionally funny story. The shock at how much the actual story differed from her framing of it would be enough to trigger laughter in most people. And it is actually the same technique that professional comedians use. Can't wait for her ex to post his version of the story somewhere dedicated to psycho ex-girlfriends. Should be a good read. Not the asshole. Your sister is out of her mind. When you said she'd set up tests, I did not actually imagine she'd involve actual people in her schemes and get them to try and coerce her now ex-boyfriend. She's projecting, she's manipulative, and she's outrageously insecure. Not to mention she lied about what happened as if she isn't the sole perpetrator in causing the relationship to meet its end. X may have pulled the plug, but she brought him there. I don't blame him or you at all for reasonable reactions to your sister's insanity.